But man, I got to start right with the big dog fight, man. Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal 2. Man, did that fight live up to expectations? Now, it was exciting because the storyline leading into this. Remember, the first time they fought, it was on 6 days' notice. Gamebred, aka Jorge Masvidal, aka Street Jesus, took the fight on 6 days' notice, and it was some, different reports in terms of how Kamaru Usman acquired a broken nose. If you let Jorge tell it, it was because of the fight. He said he broke his nose during the fight. If you let Usman say it, then he tells you that it happened during training and he went into the fight with a broken nose. But either way, outside of the first round of that initial fight, it really wasn't a competitive fight. Usman was able to just keep him on the ground, dominate him with his wrestling, his grappling, and it went like we thought it would go. But that was the intrigue because we said on 6 days' notice, Jorge let it all go in that first round and looked good. A lot of people thought he won that first round. So what would it look like with a full training camp? Could he come out here and put the pressure on Usman? Could he make Usman have to stand up for 5 rounds and trade with one of the best guys on their feet in terms of striking ability? And we got a chance to see it. But what we couldn't expect was this. Usman continuing to grow and get better. The Nigerian Nightmare. Whew, did he ever live up to that name again? Whew. It was just beautiful, man. He obviously comes out and from start showing his jab, man, popping his head back multiple times. And you could just see that he knew he had the ability to take Jorge down. He took him down in that first round and controlled him. Great grappling and things like that. But you could tell he was very, very, focused on his striking. And it showed in a big way. He was tighter with his punches, his jabs, everything was clean. And then you see him connect with that straight right hand. Oh, good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. Something that we haven't seen happen to Jorge in the UFC, period. I mean, you look at how many fights he's had and how many times he's actually been stopped. I mean, it's crazy when you look at those details from a statistical standpoint. But Kamaru Usman showing growth, showing another element to his game. And it wasn't necessarily that he was just this great striker and that's ultimately how he caught Jorge. No, it's because of his elite wrestling and grappling ability and his ability to take him down in the first that ultimately had Jorge thinking about it the whole time. And he catches him clean, flush, lights out, literally before he hits the ground, he's asleep. Then just a couple of, hammer fists for good measures. But man, you talk about a dominant performance from start to finish. You love to see it. And for me, honestly, after seeing the fight on 6 days' notice and then seeing the fight with the full training camp, as much as stylistically this is an intriguing fight, I don't need to see it again. I've seen Usman dominate him in the wrestling realm, and now I've seen him dominate him standing up, striking. We could put that matchup to rest. We don't need to see a trilogy, not anytime soon. But the next fight, which I was a little bit surprised / disappointed / intrigued about, Dana White has already said that for Kamaru, for his next welterweight title defense is going to be against Colby Covington, a guy that he's already beaten. But that was the best we've seen in terms of him being challenged. That was the most we've seen him be able to be pushed to that extent. So it's going to be good to see the rematch. It would have happened a lot sooner, but obviously Colby had sustained a broken jaw during the fight the first time. So that kind of put a damper on things. But I do like it. And like I said, I'm intrigued about it just because of, all right, it was so close the first time. Even though Kamaru still found a way to close it out and get the win, we're trying to see, can he, make an adjustment? What can Colby do to close that gap? But seeing Kamaru, seeing his growth as a striker now, man, it just makes it seem a little bit more daunting of a task for Colby. But also, man, the fight that I really wanted to see, and I've already spoke about this before, is Kamaru versus Leon Edwards. I personally thought that Leon Edwards was in line for the fight. Obviously, we talked about some of the just bad luck that he's had between fights being pulled and canceled and things like that. Then obviously we saw his previous fight and how it got stopped. Just, a lot of unfortunate circumstances around Leon, but Leon's going to have, he's got a nice little fight coming up, man, in terms of Nick Diaz. So it's going to be, Nate Diaz. So it's going to be interesting to see, how that whole dynamic plays out. But I'm excited about that because those are two very game fighters. And I do think the winner of that will ultimately get that next title shot after the Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman fight. So I'm excited about that. Definitely looking forward to that coming up in the future.